Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And again, today I bring another fantastic guest. But before we go in, please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the video, and let everybody know that we're creating this content for you guys. And please check out my Kickstarter is currently running for Tall Tales in the show notes. And without further ado, here's Damion R Waldbrunn.
How
you doing, Damion?
I'm doing all right. Is it sad if I clap for myself? I don't know.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You know.
my wife will do it, but she's not here, so she's
okay. Well, there you go. Both of our wives. They would applaud for both of us, but neither one of them here, so we're on our own. Just the guys. All right. So Damion, let's get into it. So I mean, you're a full-fledged creator. You're an artist and you're a writer, both.
My wife does a lot of our writing for our book. I do plots. I'm really good at plots. I can plot out a whole book for you, but the writing side tends to elude me a little bit. But I'm a graphic designer as well as an illustrator, so I can put the entire book together, get it print ready, get it going. I just need a writer to come in and help me out with that.
Got you. No, I got you. It's funny. It's a reverse for me and my wife. My wife's the artist. I'm the writer. So
nice.
It's always good to marry the other one. Always close
exactly.
Exactly. So, all right. So, Damion, when you were first starting out, we all know, you collected comics as a kid and all that jazz. But what was the comic book that you saw that you were like, yeah, this is something I'm actually interested in. This is something that I want to do in the future. I want to create comics. What was that book that inspired that in you?
Creed. Do you remember the book Creed?
Oh yeah.
I don't even remember who actually was putting it out at the time, but it was actually issue number 3. Specifically, I remember that. I think it was Image at the time. I think it was still my comic shop would get some of the harder to find like indie stuff. So occasionally I got to see a lot of things that normally you wouldn't see at like a standard shop, I guess. Right. But that was when I was reading Wizard, and that yes.
No, Creed. No, you're right. That's Dizanaga, Kent. Trent.
Kanega?
Yeah. I know you're talking about.
K.
Yeah. You know what it is? I thought you were talking. All right, you said Creed. I'm thinking of the other book from Image. It was I forgot the name of it. It was some big monster thing. But it was
put it out.
They did. Okay, yeah. I think when I'm thinking Carmine Infantino's the other guy. It's the guy who created Shadowhawk when he was running it.
Was that the Creech?
Creech. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. But you say Creed, and I was like
Creed.
Right. Yes. Completely different books. I'm sorry. Continue.
That's fine. But I was reading Wizard at the time, and the interview Trent Kanega. I can't say his last name. But he did an interview, and he was younger than me. I was like 19, and he was like 17, and I was like, well, if he could do this, I can do this. And I just a little before that had started developing the character that I'm still working on now. That still makes Realm Rex, so near and dear to my heart, came from that period of my life when I was trying to like really, get out in the world and see what I could do, and all that sort of mixed together in that moment to realize I want to make comics. This is what I want to do.
That's cool. So, I mean, when you first got into it, were you initially studying art, or was it something that you were interested in at an early age?
I've been drawing since I was 3. I remember actually being 3 or 4 years old and like drawing little things out of the Sunday comics or ads or toys or something. I'd try to like draw them. First thing I ever drew was a Smurf. According to my parents, that was I had a heady day of Smurf drawings from about 3 to 5.
Right.
I would draw He-Mouse. I would draw Mickey Mouse in He-Man's costume. And doing that was actually the first time I ever had a teacher say, "Stop doing that. You'll never make a living doing that. You need to stop drawing." I'm like, and I can remember to this day the first time I heard that, and I was like, no, I'm going to keep doing this. This is for me. I don't care. But yeah, drawing since I was little, and really wanted to do animation. Really didn't know what comics were as far as their structure and all that at the time, obviously. But definitely, as soon as I knew what comics were, which was around 6, I gravitated towards that sort of thing. So
that's cool. Now, what were they like? Okay, so obviously Trent, I think it's Canuga. Trent. Yeah. So I mean, obviously that's the book that inspired you to get into comics. Now, what were like the books that you were studying or looking at, or maybe studying to maybe like figure out how to do comics? Like, what were the books you studied?
I think the first thing I did was read articles about how to make comics, and this was 96, 97 by this time, and there were none. I mean, there were things like comics and sequential art, how to draw comics the Marvel way, and that was it. Like at that time, that was really all there was, readily accessible to anybody. So I immediately got those. I went and bought them. One I think I might still own a library copy that I should have returned many years ago of comics and sequential art.
They're gonna come get you.
Now they're gonna know where I am. But yeah, those books, because that's what those were the standards. Those were what people who were doing it said. Oh, I've looked at these. I've seen this. And really, it was finding out what a comic is, what the parts of a comic are, from the production standpoint, and kind of falling in love with both. Like really falling in love with making them, like the emotional and the artistic aspect, but also the physical labor of making them. Right. I spent a lot of times late night in Kinko's, just drawing and do you remember when they used to have coffee at Kinko's? Yes. Because I do. This was a very long time ago. Yeah. I would sit there and drink Kinko's coffee all night and draw and make photocopies and just make my own books, just to kind of get the practice in the feel of making them.
Right. Now, were you just at the time, were you just doing pen and ink, or were you like coloring them, or like with markers and stuff?
I knew I would have to eventually get to that point. It was pen and ink at first. A lot of it was actually pencil, just straight pencil. And not having a lot of access to better tools, I had to do a lot of, there were a lot of like big pen drawings and things like that where, I was just kind of putting it together. I later got into trying to color by hand, and right around that time was when, computers became more of a household item. I sound old. I sound so old.
It's okay.
Anybody and their brother would have a computer, at this point. You go to the store and buy one, a couple grand, and you could buy a computer. And I realized that's really when computer coloring started taking off. But I liked Valiant. I liked a lot of the coloring that Valiant was doing at the time, where it was a lot more watercolors and a lot more mixed tones.
Right. And
Image, by this point, Image had come out, and they were doing their coloring. And so, like, that, when I went from the pen and ink into ideas of, like, how to color, things like that, my mind went straight to digital. Mm-hmm. And eventually I was like, okay, at some point I'll get a computer, or I'll find someone that has one that can color this for me. And, then lettering, of course, and all that. I hope I'm making sense.
Yes, it makes sense. I understand.
Okay. Sorry.
So now, so you were coloring by hand or whatever. Yeah. Lettering, like, okay, so you actually had your formative years. Now, when did you actually start, like, saying, okay, I'm going to start doing, like, at what point did you see that transition in your work where you're starting to take it maybe a little bit more seriously?
I say I started doing this when I was 17, but really about 6 years ago is when I really started saying, I need to produce books. I need to have books. I need to, the story had been developed long enough. There was plenty of time, put it, under my belt of putting it all together. It was time to actually make the books. And so I sat down and started producing the books that I have now, based off that same concept of Realm X and alternate realities. So yeah, not that very long ago, for considering how long I've had this character stuck in my head.
Now, is that the character that's sitting over there over your left shoulder?
Yes. He's conveniently framed, you mean?
No, that's, listen, if you look over Jesus, over my, yes, that shoulder, over my left shoulder, you can see my stuff. So yes, very smart.
I was talking to my wife, I was like, I should put these out, because this is where I should frame these. But yeah, it's when I actually said, I have all these designs, I have all these ideas, let's start putting them in a linear format so I can start getting this idea out to people and see what they think and make comics. That's what I wanted to do. I'm like, that's what was in my heart.
Okay, now we had a discussion just before we started airing. You letting me know that your wife actually writes your stories for you. So now, how did you how did the genesis of that relationship? I don't mean the two of you getting together, but I mean the genesis of writer and artist. Like, how did that figure out? Was she a writer before you guys met? Was she, or like you were like, lady, you got to do this for me?
Little from column A, little from column B. No, what happened originally was she's a writer. She does a lot of prose and a lot of blogging, had done previously, and we were really good friends, a couple years before we got married. Like we were really good friends. Mm-hmm. And I'd show her my book. I'd show her art I was working on and say, hey, what do you think? And she, very much a girly girl, was like, oh, this is great. I like this. This is sci-fi. I love, and I was like, oh, I was dumb and assumed you wouldn't like these things. Here's more. Do you want to take a look at this? And I got to a point where I had an idea for an animated trailer for the book. And I wrote it down, and I showed her the script, and she kind of gave me some ideas on it. And then I said, hey, would you want to voice this? Would you want to do this voice for me? And she was like, oh, really? Yeah, absolutely. And so she did. And talking about that script gave me the idea that, like, because so much of what I had put into it, thoughts I'd had about it, were sort of just popping into her head. And she's like, oh, and hey, this thing, let's expound on that, and let's carry this thought out this way. And I was like, yes, this is someone that understands how to do this. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of how I fell in love with her, to be honest. It was a little like, oh, this dream I've had most of my life. You understand it. You don't make me feel like I'm crazy. Which is a weird way to put that. I don't mean, but there were other factors involved. She's one of my best friends. She really gets the concept. The thrust behind the book for me was always that moment when you were just about to step out into the world and you had all these possibilities in front of you. And what if that were really personified, is in real potential possibilities, worlds upon worlds upon worlds. And she got that. Mm. And that is the thrust for me, saying, please write this. I really, really need you. And I really like the way you think. So, and the book that I sent you wouldn't exist without her. Like, she really made that happen. Put the ideas together in such a way that it was fun beyond just in my brain.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, my wife and I married early on under a similar circumstance. She was an artist, and I was some goofy writer, and I was just like, I need people. And my friend went to school. They went to the School of Art and Design here in New York City, and so he was just like, well, sure, I'll bring you a whole bunch of artists. And that's what he did. He brought me basically the best in his class. And he was just like, all right. Yeah. I ended up working with about 8 or 9 people at one point. Yeah.
Lucky.
We were crazy is what we were. We were a bunch of knuckleheads. But yeah, that's a whole other story. So getting back, let's take it back to you.
Yes.
So now, when you work with your wife, now you also told me that you work with the plots. Now, as far as the story structures goes, are you just like, you have the type of people that are pantsers, they just make it up as they go, or you're sitting down and you have like the little post-it notes all over the wall, and you got the little crime scene tape and the strings, you know, like which direction do you lead in as far as like plotting out?
We kind of, well, I'll be honest with you, we created a matrix actually, because she's more of I'm more of a visual thinker. She's more of a verbal, you know, she sees words. So we created this little matrix where we could both, she could create a visual pattern for me to see out of what we were discussing as far as her writing. And actually, like, I've given them away at cons and people have come back and said they love them. I'm not trying to plug that necessarily, but it worked really well for us. Like, that's why I made it. And it's page by page by page, and the standard, you know, each page, plot each page, and then plot each panel on each page, and then go from there. I'm an AXZ2 kind of person, and she's an ABCDE kind of person. So it helps us sort of merge those ideas together. Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the best way to explain it. Like, beyond that, it's kind of whatever sticks. We both know, we've talked about it so much that we both know where we want it to go. So we are almost to the point where I can say, hey, this character, and she's like, oh, you mean this, this, and this? I'm like, yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I'll do this. And a lot of times I'll even just like, here's a plot for a script. I'll just write it, you know, page by page by page. I'll throw it to her, and she'll be like, no, yeah, it works. Okay, she'll do a little editing, and then we'll sit down and go and block it out like to an actual script. And my very ADHD brain needs a script. I really, really do. I love freehand drawing. I love being able to draw whatever I want, but I need the ABCD of it to be able to like really get through that one. So
now, what type of script is she giving you? Is she giving like a Marvel style script where it's just like,
yes,
you know, so there's no dialogue, it's just a big block of words, and you're just going in there. So okay, let me lay this up.
It sort of a mix. Like if she really wants to get down into like the minutia of a scene, she'll break out, because she can kind of link to comics. And I think, like I said, visually, she can come at it from more of a art and story as sort of a dovetail kind of situation. So she can see it where she'll look, okay, this sentence is this panel, this sentence is this panel, like a Marvel script, and then say that third panel is a moment where the characters stop for a second to say something important, even if it's just one person talking. She'll break down to the script, and then she'll go further from that. So because we know each other and how we think, I'll know that panel needs to maybe be the focus, and so when I'm sitting down and actually doing the drawing, I can plan the page around that panel. And we kind of play with that back and forth a little bit, like what's going to get the job done fastest. Right now, I've been sort of working on some side stuff, so we really haven't collaborated on the script recently. But we've been talking about it, and that's pretty much what we feel like works best between us.
Okay, well that's cool. You know, I do a weird, because the only time I've ever written actual scripts where I break it down page by page for an artist is for the short, for about the 3 years that I worked professionally in the 90s. And that was that was for the editor. That wasn't even for my artist. Because my artist and a guy, we'd already worked the way I initially worked. And I'll write out a huge blob of a thing, and it'll just be like, I'll just write out the scene description, right? And then I'll just write out like, you know, okay, this person says this, and this is the look on their face. This is what's going on. These are the actions. And I'll just do that, and I'll be like, here you go. And I'll just push it at them. And I'll be like, all right, have fun with that, and I'll leave. And they just do their thing. So
we kind of do that for the most part. Like I said, I think we only really get into breaking it down when the way, like facial expressions and things like that, need to be very specific to get the idea across that we're trying to get. Other than that, it's pretty much, like you said, it's the same kind of situation.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. No, you know, did you send me a book?
I did. I did.
You did? You sent? Really?
48 pages.
Okay. Oh,
I can resend it. Do you have it? Okay, sorry.
Hold on. Is this? No, this is the video. Because I got the card.
Where's my mouse?
Because I got the card JPEG, but I didn't get a. I don't remember seeing a book. That's why I was like, he sent me a book.
Oh,
I felt bad. I was just like, oh, wait a second. Oh, here it is.
It should be at the very top. What was it?
No. What it was because you remember you sent me the video with Dan.
Yes.
Yeah, I got the PDF. I'm downloading it now.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. Because then I'll look at it and I'll start quizzing you.
Nice. I'm a little scared. Go ahead.
So all right. So getting back into the story, like how long, like what type of what type of length do you envision the story going? I mean, is this like an epic that's gonna last 2,000 pages? Is this something that you're just looking to do, for maybe 4 or 5 issues? What are you looking at as far as this story and how it's running?
Well, the book I actually sent you really is sort of a zero. I hate to use the term zero issue, but it's a zero issue to kind of get the idea across. The book itself is going to be broken up in arcs. So it'll be, I think, the first arc we discussed being about 3 to 5 issues. There's a part towards the end we don't know how we're going to flesh out yet, and then just work in arcs, because the character working in arcs and leaving some time between them allows for, because the character's 16th in the first book, the first arc, and we kind of want by maybe the third arc, the second arc we discussed being 2 to 3 issues right now. We try not to think too far into, it's going to be 16 issues, just because we want to make sure we're going to be able to produce that and for the story itself. So I know the second arc we discussed being about 2 to 3 issues, but he's going to basically age slowly over that time. Adventure Time was a big influence in how they had the character sort of develop and age over the course of the series. And I really enjoyed that about the character, because with a cartoon you can do more with that, where you have the character's voice change slowly over time and you don't augment that. You let that stay. You have them react in certain ways to outward stimuli, and inspired by that, but trying to do that in a comic book way, and trying to do that in the format of comics. I keep hitting my microphone. I'm sorry. It's like I talk with my hands and I put my microphone right here. But yeah, to have the character age and develop over the course of these arcs to an eventual end, depending on how much we actually. Well, I'll keep making them if people keep reading, but even if I'm just making them for me and my family, I'll keep making them, because that's what I want to do. The story, to me, again, I created that character at a time when I was that person, when I was that 16, 17-year-old kid about to go out into the world, scared and excited and everything, and now being on this end of it, having a wife, a child. I say a child, he's like 20, but having a wife and a son, and having lived life on the other end of that, I'd love to get there. Not sure if we will or how we will, but I want to. So right now I know for sure at least 3 to 5 issues for the first arc, and then 3 for the second arc.
Gotcha. Now, how far along? I see you're 0. Now, how far along did you get? In your first issue, you done with the first issue, or how far did you get into the series?
Well, due to other circumstances involving some things that were not planned to happen, there is a book that I'm producing to fulfill a Kickstarter called Omniversal Crossworld, which is a crossover with a couple of other people's characters. And that will be coming out later this year. And that acts as the bridge between 0 and the first issue. The first issue is plotted, and I kind of had some side stuff. I joined up with the Indie Wars thing Ben Dunn was doing. And so when that's done, I can focus on the script and getting the Kickstarter book finished and get that done as soon as possible. Then we'll know for sure, where that's going to be this time next year, so to speak.
Right. So now let's get into some of the technical stuff. Now one, when you do your layouts, are you are you doing like little thumbnails and then blowing them up, or are you doing them maybe on a computer and then enlarging them? How are you working on a Cintiq, or are you working like just traditional pen and paper?
I've got it's a knockoff. It's a Huion. It's kind of a knockoff Cintiq. Works really well. It's a very nice piece of machinery. But I work digitally, and I actually on my page I do 11x17, 600 DPI, and because I want a fine line, and I'm a little more the Joe Madrera school, where when things are close up, I want a thicker line. Things are far away, I want a thinner line. I know that's an artist thing, but it's the first name that pops into my head when I think of it. And so that's how I work. And then I will go to the script, figure where my focus panel is, and thumb that panel first, and then go back and thumb the other panels around it. I really need to move this. And thumb those other panels around it. Since I know that focus panel needs to be, again, the focus, I try to put the most effort into that panel and then build from there. And so that I can have things like if there's, let's say they're in the middle of a battle and there needs to be smoke or things, I can, add pieces in one panel that you see passing through another panel that you see maybe going into a third panel. So I don't really thumb as much as I sort of start into it and then I guess kind of thumb off of it. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I kind of groove on it, which is
right.
It's a very hippie way of saying it, but it's kind of how I feel about it. Like if it feels right, then I go with it.
Gotcha. Well, this is probably why you need a script.
This is actually exactly why I need a script.
Yeah.
Because I can groove for a while and not produce a lot of stuff. I will totally be honest.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the pages, and the one thing I noticed is you're using a very non-traditional way of laying out your book. You're nowhere near the Jack Kirby 9-panel grid. Now, is there a specific reason for that? Is it just something you just feel a little bit more comfortable with? And I challenge you to one day do a 9-panel grid for at least a couple pages.
The Indiegogo stuff was more on a 9-panel grid. It really was.
Okay.
I challenged myself on that one. The next stuff, I think, will be a little more traditional in those regards. This was more of, I wanted the feel and the idea of what's on the page. I wanted the art on the page to propel the idea that you're not looking at something normal. Like this is normal, and the characters act normal within it. So for them, it's an everyday thing. For you, it's just, oh wow, or whoa, this is boring. Why are they acting like this matters? And then you flip the page. So it's more of the environment as a character, sort of interacting, and even the panel layout doing sort of that same thing.
Right. Oh no, I look at it. I find it very interesting. I actually like the way it looks. I'm just like scrolling through it. I was just like, oh, this is pretty interesting.
It made me want to cry when I had to letter it. I was like, why did I do this to myself? What is this? Oh my god! It really did. That's why I'm going. Like I said. That's why in the future I'm going to be doing much more of a 6 to 9 panel sort of book. So.
Now, why were you crying when you had to letter it? Because you had to cover some of the artwork, or?
For one, for two, it was really my first attempt at lettering a whole book, and it hurt because it's not easy. It's not. It's not easy to letter. I mean, but you think it is when you first try it. You go, well, this isn't too hard, and then 3 pages in you're like, no, I gotta go back to that first page and fix this because now I'm thinking of it differently and understanding how to letter itself, really go. I swear in the middle of this book I stopped and said, I've got to read tutorials on lettering because I like what I'm doing. I'm gonna have to redo some of this because and if you read through, I'll be completely honest about it, as you read through it, there's a couple places. I have one of the characters, Ivy, who's a hologram, and I wanted to show that her text bubbles were unique to her, and I went a little overboard on that. I know you're not supposed to say these things, but I like to be honest about my art. And so that in some of those things, I've had people go, that's a little hard to read. You shouldn't do that anymore. And I had a friend, I knew I was supposed to remember how to pronounce his name before I came on here. I did a short story called Planet X with Rodney Jean Antony. Probably mispronouncing his name. He's an amazing letterer, I mean, like just perfect. And he came up with a much better way of doing her balloons than I had. Mm-hmm. So just like I said on the thing I was just doing, I went back and redid those balloons. That his way. So it's a learning process, but it made me cry the first time because I was like, I got so much done, I have to stop and redo it. This doesn't look right.
Now, did you use Photoshop or are you working in Illustrator?
Photoshop.
Photoshop. Yeah, I still do mine in Photoshop.
I think it's I think it's easier than Illustrator in a lot of ways. I know Illustrator, I'm a graphic designer too, so I know the Illustrator gives you a lot more leeway and flexibility with everything you're doing. But I just feel more comfortable in Photoshop making these things. Because a vector is a vector, but I can make a raster sing. If I really put my heart and soul into it, I can make it work. Beyond that, going forward, I'm having Rodney letter.
Gotcha. That's cool. Now, as a writer, I actually prefer that extra step because then it allows me to do some edits as I'm lettering. So if anyone ever asks me, does your script match your comic? I'm like, no. Because the story behind that is because I had signed a contract with a foreign publisher, and they wanted to produce the work in Spanish, and I was like, okay, sure. They were like, send me the script. I was like, sure. I'm gonna send it to you. I was like, but I'm gonna send you the PDF. Follow the PDF because I told him I says I do my edits in there. So it's just and I wasn't about to rewrite the script for him. So yeah, but yeah, lettering is definitely a learning curve. I'm literally re-lettering 200 pages that I lettered probably about 10 years ago. So yeah.
So you feel the pain?
Oh yeah, I know the pain. Yeah, I've re-lettered at least 400 pages. Re-lettered. So it's my second go around on them. Yeah,
I couldn't do it. It'd drive me insane. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah. No, it's you get it's rough, but it's all for the love.
True.
Right.
I've taken 3 days to draw 15 pages of a book, and stayed up most of that time. So I understand. I understand the love. Sometimes.
Right. Exactly. and you're already an independent publisher, so you're already insane. So.
Exactly.
So it's okay.
Money. Who needs money? Let's make things.
Right. Exactly. Now, so we've gone over some of the process. Now you're coloring it all in the computer, right? All right. So you're coloring it all. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think we both froze on each other. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So you're coloring in the computer. You're exporting it out. Now you said you do your own pre-press. So are you doing? Are you doing offset pre-press, or are you just doing digital pre-press? Because there is a difference between the two.
I do digital. I know how to do offset, but I do digital just because. Right now, I'm using RA Direct to print through, and I've got to know them pretty well, and so I know their specs by heart. I have it all programmed in. I just boom. I might be doing Kablam for something soon, so I know I have to do different specs for that. But all that digital pre-press works really well. And for me, it's hard for me to do the other. It's hard for me. So digital's the way I go.
Right. No, I got you. Also, you don't want to sleep on 10,000 books. It's rough. Yeah. So just to let people know, we're talking about digital printing as opposed to offset printing. Offset printing, you usually have to print anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 books to make it economical for you to get those books. They tend to be much cheaper on a per piece cost or a per unit cost, but you will end up with probably 2,000 to 3,000 books, depending on the thickness. You can get graphic novels probably at 1,000. You can get a regular comic usually 2,000 to 3,000, depending on the printer. Whereas digital, you can just order one. The only difference is that the unit cost is much higher, but you don't have to sleep on cases of these things, so or have your garage filled with them, however you look at it.
I did it once. I did it one time. Never
How'd that go?
It was I produced. Do you remember? Have you ever heard of the Small Publishers Co-op out of Florida?
Yeah.
It was a real small outfit. They didn't last very long, I don't think, but they did a run through them, just black and white newsprint. And I was like, because it was one of the first books I ever printed, so I was like, yay, this is newsprint, it's mine. And no cover, just straight newsprint. I mean, I did a cover, but it was a newsprint cover. And ate the cost of that completely. There was a local skate park. I got 10 friends of mine, and we grabbed I gave some to local shops for consignment. And they liked it, and I made a little bit of, a couple of dollars off that. But I just wanted to use it more for promotion rather than for anything else. So we went to a local skate park and just started handing them out to everybody. Right. And we had 2,000 books. By the time we were done, we had about 100 left, and that 100 sat in my trunk for about a year with me slowly giving out one by one. Yeah, so I have one copy left. And that was next year. It'll be 20 years ago.
Gotcha.
Haven't looked back.
Now, was the course on that expensive?
Not at all. It was like $300 for 2,000 books. It was about 16 pages, so it wasn't too big. And it looked really good. We sold a page or two because, again, really not knowing a lot. Reading indie comics, but not knowing a lot of we sold advertising is the point I'm trying to get to, which is a silly thing to do in this comic. But it paid for printing, so it worked pretty well.
Exactly. I mean, if you can get someone to pay you, I know of some guys, or I know of some guys who actually that's what they do. They'll like sell advertising in their book. They'll charge you like $10-$20 a page or whatever, and I guess 8 or 9 pages would be that, depending. I mean, I think they charge like $25 to like $50 for a page, and they'll put it in their books. If you get 8 pages, it'll cover $400, right?
Sure.
And it'll cover some costs on you. So,
a friend of mine that was helping me do the book, his dad was a dentist, so his dad paid for that. So you're like, here's a comic book about this guy that goes out to other realities, and it goes to a dentist, I guess. What is this? Okay, moving on.
Hey, listen, I went to film school, and they said dentists. They said those are the right people to go to raise money. It's because they got it, and they don't know what to do with it, and they're bored.
It really was. That's true.
They got it, and they're like, I got all this money, I don't know what to do with it. The house is big, it's paid for, and the car is paid for, and so yeah, it's a dentist. Always a good way to find funding. All right, so now, the process with you and your wife, right? Like, obviously she's writing the story, she's passing them along to you. Now, when you're done drawing this stuff, does she come in and like start dialoguing afterwards?
Yes, and editing some of the art, making sure everything's going together well. She's really good at that. She's got a very good eye for detail and consistency, continuity. Sorry, the word I was looking for was continuity. So if something's on one side, it's not on the other side in the next panel, and so on and so forth, that sort of thing. Really good at that. And then she'll sit down, and if things have popped into my head as far as dialogue, like, it'd be really great if this happened in this panel, and I didn't think of that before I drew it, then if I don't redraw it, then we'll do that together. We'll actually let's work this idea in if we can and make sure that it's gonna play first. But I always give her final call on that, because as the writer, I really want to respect like her point of view and her way of telling the story. So
right. Okay, cool. Now also, like, do you find yourself, because of this process, maybe redrawing more than you think you would, or
Rarely, because a lot of times I'll if I think of something, I'll throw it in and then show her, so it's more cutting than redrawing. But afterwards, I think there's only 2 things in the book that I gave you that I actually went back and And that was just because continuity. I I had put something on the wrong side, and she was like, "No, fix it. You gotta take care of this." Right. And then the only thing is that occasionally, if I've done something dumb and she's frustrated with it, she gives me that take out the trash kind of tone of her voice. I'm like, "Honey, please, come on. Like, we're working together." But it's about comics, so it works. Like, it could be about anything, but it's about something we both love doing. So,
all right, that's cool. So now, the series itself, have you done a Kickstarter already for this, for the Zero issue?
I did a Kickstarter. I did an omnibus that was all of. Sorry about the ums. That and I did it again. That's okay. It was all the art I'd done up to that point, and I've been doing art off and on since about 2000. Mm. An ash can here, a couple of pages there, some stuff I pre-printed, or I did the Kinko's thing where I ran off a bunch of copies. I actually didn't have a lot of it. I had to go to friends and say, "Hey, do you have any of my art?" And went back and created an omnibus as a jumping off point, but also there was an element that my wife had written into the story that wasn't there originally. She said, "Oh," it was one of her ideas where she saw something and she said, "That can be expanded on in a way that's really neat." And it implied that some of the other artwork that I had done, some of the other books that I had done, could potentially be alternate realities. Mm-hmm. And ways that this story that we want to tell going forward may have played out. And a character that will be introduced in that first arc is the one that's seeing these other stories. Mm-hmm. And the last story was that book, the book that you have now.
Right.
And this is if you read the omnibus, we put I can't think of the names. We bookended all the stories with with this other story that was playing out. We have we call it the Shard of the Firmament. It's a piece of creation that is in the possession of a character in the book, and that character gets it because it's handed down through generations. The character in the omnibus that's seeing these potential futures for the Shard Bearer, which is what the main character, Jared, is, not a spoiler. It's pretty quickly known that that's what he is, or what he's supposed to be. Whether he's good at it or not is a whole other story. But it comes to him to do this because of the story that happened in the omnibus, and this person saying, "Oh, these are potential histories for this piece of something that is like the ultimate form of potential." Mm-hmm. And that was sort of the arc that we had to tie all that together.
Gotcha. That was your bridge.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. Cool. Better word. I'm not a writer.
That's fine. Now listen. All right, we've been at this for a little while, so we're coming close to the end. We're not there yet, though. We're coming close, but we're not there yet. So there's gonna be a few other questions I'm gonna ask you, right? So before I ask you, all right, let me ask you this question: is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I really didn't. I guess if there's anything we haven't talked about, and actually we touched on it, because I think, like you were saying, the way that you will edit in the book, edit in lettering, to me, comics is an art form.
Right. And
I know that's said a lot, but I don't think that the outside world really gets it in that way that I think people that make comics get. And for me, sometimes that's a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know about you. I know for me, there's been times where I've been bogged down in that. Much earlier on, where it was like, oh, I'm an artiste. I must be true to my vision, and had nothing to show for it. And it's one of the things I really like about Dan is that it's all about the book. Make the book. If you don't have a book, you don't have a lot. You might have a great idea. Like, I've copywritten. Everything that I've created is copywritten. and it's mine, but it's actually mine and my wife's. But it doesn't mean anything if I don't make a book and put it out there and show people that this thing exists. So it's this balance between being an artist, however that means for the creation of this book, and being that real world sort of, I'd say business, but realistic person that what puts those two things together to make what a comic book is and what it can be to people. I mean, it can be, the right book at the right time can save a life. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. There's been many times that, I've been reading a comic and it just, something struck me and it changed how I felt about things. It changed how I thought about things. And that's what I wanted to do. For me, that's what making comics is about. Is, it sounds so pretentious to say. Stephen King said that writing is the truest form of telepathy. And I think comics more so, because you're giving a visual with a story. Right. And you can exist in that world, then something that exists in my head that no one will ever see, I can create something, give it to you, and you can see it. Mm-hmm. And however your brain translates that is the communication.
Right.
So, sorry to get weird and arty and pretentious, but
it's okay.
That's what I think. That was it.
Well, to your point, you're right. The comic books can affect people in different ways. I've been self-publishing since '91, so it's been a while for us. But one of the books we did was called Tall Tales, and we're still doing it. And I remember I got a letter from a guy who was in the military. He was stationed in Japan, and he said the only thing that got him through his tour was reading our books, was reading Tall Tales. And he had sent me, and I still have the coin. I wish I had the letter, but he had sent me a coin, a brass coin from, I guess, his division. And I guess it was something that only people who served there would get.
Nice.
And yeah, I was like, and I still have it. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Like I said, I wish I had the letter, but we moved and we just lost, stuff got lost in the shuffle. Sucks, but, it is what it is. But I know exactly what you mean, man. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a powerful medium. And, I know, like you, I'm very grateful to be working in it, and just exploring it and sharing the stuff. All right. So, like I said, we're almost done, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
So,
I'm waiting for the hard-hitting questions.
All right.
I want to take them.
All right. Before we get on to my goofy questions, please let everybody know where they can find your work, where they can find you, and, they can pick up your stuff.
Right now, go to my website. It's ruomniversal.com, all one word. There's actually, in the new upcoming stuff, there'll be mention of a radio station called Radio Free Omniverse that we've actually started. Like, we got an ASCAP license. We're playing real music. We're working on some ideas for what we're going to do with that. But if you go to radiofreeomniverse.com, every Friday through Sunday, we play music. You can go in there and you go straight to the page. It plays right on the page. You can request whatever you want. We'll get it in there almost immediately because right now we're trying to get requests. As far as my book, you can hit me up on the website right now. Because of the other things that I'm working on, I don't have a tried and true method of releasing that book. Like I'm not selling it or anything right now. That said, that will change in the immediate future. By the end of the year, we should have the store up on the website. Right now, you can go there and look at a bunch of stuff, see what we're doing, things like that. The radio station website's a lot more conveniently updated. Right. So both of those sites really will get you stuff. And then email me, studiocubris@gmail.com.
Cool. All right. And I'll have all that stuff on my, I'll have all this stuff in the show notes. Right. So now, all right. So let's get on to some of these, some of my goofier questions. All right. Now.
Gotcha.
All right. So, all right. This will be a two-parter. First, if you were able to get a guest artist to do a cover for you, okay? And it doesn't matter who it is. Don't worry about the budget, living or dead. Comic book artist. I don't want to hear Da Vinci. Who would you get to paint the cover for you? I mean, not paint. Who would you get to do it, to illustrate or cover?
Sean Galloway.
Okay.
Okay. Love Sean Galloway. Love his artwork. The first thing that pops to mind is Jim Lee, but Sean Galloway, I think, is such a unique style while still being fun. And a lot of people that will draw my character tend to draw him older, and he can really get that sort of like teenage energy into the art. So I think I kind of got him on the line a little bit. So if he's out there listening, please, hey Sean, just put me up the list. That's all I'm asking.
There you go. All right. Okay. Now, no. Sean, put him on the list.
Please.
So wait, you've commissioned him?
Yeah, I got a list last year, and then he got a bunch of freelance work. So his list was long, and then he got a bunch of like rather important freelance work. So everyone I think that was on the list understands. I haven't heard one complaint from anybody. So I'm like, hey, as long as you draw it, I don't care when, just please.
Gotcha. Okay, I don't like waiting. So
I don't either. But I mean, it's I'm so excited to see what he's gonna do. I'm like, I don't care anymore. Just that's great. Just I'm happy that it might exist.
Right. No, that's cool. So all right. So now the second question. Now, aside from your wife, obviously, who you already work with, right? Now, if you could have a guest writer come in and write a one-shot for you, for your series, for your character, who would that writer be?
I almost hate to say it because the one time I got to meet him, he wasn't terribly nice. But Chris Claremont.
Okay.
Chris Claremont, if he could do a one-shot, that'd be beautiful.
Okay.
And it was a weird situation. In his defense, it was a weird situation, and I fanboyed on him. I wasn't too like over the top, but I was like, I'm really excited to see you. You're so great. And he kind of looked at me and was like, and looked past me. Goes, somebody else want to talk to me? This guy's weird. Can you like? He didn't say the weird part, but he did say, can somebody else come over here? Because I need help. So I was like, okay, I need to either back down and walk away or something. But that'd be my choice.
All right, Chris Claremont. That's fair. All right, so now, wait a second. All right, yes. Now, let's say if you got what I like to refer to as the golden ticket, and they called you up to the big companies, right? And they said, hey, Damion, come up here, pick a book, any book, right? And which book would it be? So it could be Marvel, DC, it could be any of these companies, doesn't matter. And who would you get it to write for? And it can't be Chris Claremont or your wife.
Okay. So we have to see, that was going to say. Because the book I would pick would be Fantastic Four.
Okay.
I mean, I love what's being done on it right now. I think there's been so many infinitely readable aspects of it over the years, but the last couple before they kind of canned it a little bit. Were a little questionable, just in my opinion. But that's the book I'd want to do, and Dan Slott.
Okay.
Because I was reading something about what he's doing with them in the Empire crossover, and I was like, oh, that makes me excited. Like, it's gonna be a little bit like, ooh, okay, come on, get him out. Let me see these books.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Cool. It's funny. I don't think I've ever read anything from Dan Slott. Because I'm not.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just don't read a lot of Marvel or DC anymore, except the weird stuff. If it's weird, I'll probably get it. So, I read a lot of Vertigo stuff, and I'm reading the Neil Gaiman universe and the Joe Hill universe, that sort of thing, out of DC. But I guess I'm gonna have to correct that at some point.
Well, the new FF stuff, the recent one, the one that just started last year, is it's really good. It's classic while still being a modern interpretation.
Right.
Like the kids are a little older, there's stuff's happening, people are getting married, things are going on, but it's still the first family of Marvel. They're still at their core who they are, and it's not I feel like a lot of people write it like, hey, let's re-explain who these people are to each other, or let's tear the family apart. Families are dysfunctional nowadays. Let's do that. Right. But they're not supposed to be. You know, they've been through so much, and they're the family you choose, not even so much the family you have. I mean, Sue and Johnny aside, and of course Reed and Sue being married. But again, even that's family you choose. So it's a lot of fun what they're doing now, and they honor the history without like bashing you over the head with it. So it's pretty good.
Right. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right, so now we're gonna do some comparatives, right?
Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna softball you with a few of them first. You know, we'll go easy. Godzilla or Gamera?
Gamera.
Okay, why?
Watching the Mystery Science Theater 3000 Gamera movies really made me like Gamera. It's the little boy with the giant monster. Like I'm a man child at heart, so I always wanted my own giant monster. So I gotta go with Gamera. I mean, as far as firepower and sheer ability to destroy, Godzilla, yeah, without question. But I like Gamera.
Okay. I don't know if you've seen it. If you ever get a chance, try to watch the. There was the Japanese released some movies in the 1990s. Gamera, excuse me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they were actually very interesting. There's 3 of them. So yeah, those are really good. You might enjoy those. So it's a little bit more modern, and the special effects are definitely a lot better.
Nice. That would be. They couldn't be worse. I've seen some Asylum movies, and those old ones kill me.
It's true.
At least the Asylum does to CGI. But yeah, sorry.
Right.
That was side commentary. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's fine. All right, Captain America or Batman?
Captain America. I don't like Batman.
Okay, fair enough.
I hate to say it, but I just don't.
He's a stupid character. I don't know.
There's a part of me that wants to disagree, but I'm like, I can't. It is. It's.
He's a stupid character. You know, he's a billionaire that runs around in a car. You know, beats the hell out of people. You know, instead of creating a foundation to get people jobs and maybe take them out of misery and get them some mental health care. I mean,
move. It's like the entire run of Arrow. I'm like, our town's in peril. We need to move. Buy the town and fix it or something. But like. It's so horrible we can't do anything about it. Well, then move.
Right.
You're in the DC universe. There's 20 cities you can move to. They're like 5 minutes away. They are better than this. Sorry. Again, side commentary.
That's fine. And then the reason I asked you why about Gamera, because mostly everybody chooses Godzilla. And I actually prefer Gamera myself.
Nice.
But, I try not to. I only let them know afterwards. It's just like, All right. Dragon Slayer or Willow?
Willow.
Okay.
I like some comedy in my fantasy. I'm not a big fantasy fan. It's weird. Like, I don't like Lord of the Rings. I love Willow, but I don't like Lord of the Rings. So it's very... I mean, granted, they're obviously different movies, but it's... I don't know.
Okay. All right, wait a second. DS9 or Next Gen?
DS9.
Okay.
And you were talking to Dan about Jadzia Dax, and both of them, yes, alone, just the 2 of them were perfect. So,
all right, 7 of 9.
I love 7 of 9. I love 7 of 9. She was great in Picard. Have you seen Picard yet?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
Oh, amazing! You can get a 7-day free trial. Some give you a 30-day free trial on the CBS app. Get it if for no other reason. Get it. Watch Picard. It is an homage that truly hits the mark. And Data's never been used better in the series. I don't even in Next Gen. But I'm weird, so there's that.
Stan Lee or Jack Kirby?
Oh, Jack Kirby. Okay. All day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
He's my spirit animal.
He's your Patronus?
Without a doubt.
Hmm. Okay, I'm not gonna ask you that one's unfair.
Come on, what is it?
Claremont or Wolfman?
Okay, personal opinion. That's a hard one. I like Claremont, but that's a hard one. Like that choice is. That's like which of my favorite kids. I can't think I can make that one. You're right. Let's move on. Those were good. I couldn't pick one. I honestly could not pick one of the two. Okay. I love Wolfman's work.
I'm sorry, you froze up. What happened?
Oh, I just said I love Wolfman's work. If I had to pick, I'd say Claremont just because I've read so much of Claremont's work, but I've also read so much of Wolfman's that I'm just like I couldn't pick.
Gotcha.
I have 4 cats. I love them all. Sorry.
Hellboy or Spawn?
Hellboy.
Wally Wood or Al Williamson?
Wally Wood.
Okay. John Byrne or George Perez?
George Perez.
Really? Okay. That's fair. I thought maybe the Fantastic Four thing would have.
Yeah, but when it comes down to it, I've met them both, and George Perez is just a really nice guy. Byrne isn't a bad guy. He just seems really aggressive. Like anytime I've ever seen him, just been like grrr about everything.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And maybe it's just when I've seen it. Maybe it's me. I don't even know. But
I don't know. I've told this story at least once before, and I don't want to share it out too many times because people are like, "Damn it, he's saying the same story again." But it's my one John Byrne story. Okay, because I've met George Perez. Very, very sweet man, George Perez. But you always hear bad stories about John Byrne, right? You always hear he's a little, he's a curmudgeon, right? Cranky, a little mean. Those are the things you tend to hear about him. Okay, so we drove a group of friends of us. We were very early on. We were doing this stuff, 92, 93, somewhere around there. We drove down to Pittsburgh Comic-Con. So we get down there. My friend, one of the guys I was working with, Matthew, he had just finished the second issue on the book we were doing, Dreamweavers. And we didn't know John Byrne was even going to be there. And he goes over with another friend of mine who's also an artist. He was it's like an illustrator who would do portraits and things, but he wasn't doing comics. But he was a big fan of John Byrne's stuff. So the two of them go over to John Byrne's table. They wait online. Go over to him. And Matthew presents his book to John Byrne, and he says, "Here you go, Mr. Byrne. I just finished this. It just came out, and I wanted you to have this." And John Byrne looked through it. It was very complimentary. Asked him to sign it. He signed it for him, And then John Byrne says, "Do you guys have anything for me to sign?" And they were like, "No, we didn't even know you were going to be here. This was a last minute thing." And we came in from New York, and he was like, "Oh, okay." He says, "All right." He says, and he reaches underneath the table. He says, "You guys are lucky." He says, "A dealer just dropped off a case of these," and he hands them. It's the first issue of his run on Fantastic Four. Okay, so it's the one with Diablo. I think they're hanging upside down and like candlesticks or something. It's like it's a really awesome cover. Signs it. He signs both copies. Gives it to the guys. I've never seen two grown-ass men float. They floated back to the table. Huge smiles. Like, that was their artistic hero ever since. So that's my job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Again, when it comes to people's personalities, I never make a judgment call until I've actually met him. Like, I've talked to him, but I haven't really get to meet him, Mm-hmm. So my mileage varied, but I love hearing that story. That's good. That's a great story.
Yeah, I try to share that one out just to let people know he's not always mean. He can be a nice guy. So, all right. So I'm gonna hit you up with a couple more questions and we'll close this out.
Okay.
Bernie Wrightson or Barry Windsor Smith?
Bernie Wrightson.
Okay. Okay. Will Eisner or Toth?
Oh, that's another one. That's another one of those my favorite children kind of questions. If I had to, if I had to be pinned down to the mat, Will Eisner.
Will Eisner. Okay. All right. I'll ask you one more.
Okay.
Sandman or Swamp Thing?
Swamp Thing.
Okay. And we're talking about Alan Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I've everything. That's the comics I grew up as a kid were a lot of the DC 70s books, like in some of the 60s, like comedy books and things like that, where people had them like, oh, you're a kid, you like comic books, read these. And Swamp Thing was great. Before Alan Moore, he made it better, and it's good now. The series was good.
Yeah. All right, cool. Because I only experienced the Alan Moore stuff, and then like the Bernie Wrightson stuff later. Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein, their stuff later. But Alan Moore's the stuff that I grew up on, and I was just like, I remember at 13 getting a hold of that issue where it's like him and I think what's her name, his girlfriend, and she's eating his fruit that comes off of his body, and she has like an acid trip. Yeah, 13, man, it was awesome. It was like poof, just
comics will change you.
Exactly, comics will change. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, it was awesome. But Damion, thank you so much. Please, one more time, let everybody know where they can find you and where they can find your work.
Thank you. My website is areyouomniversal.com. You can find me on Facebook. Just look for my name. Again, radiofreeomniverse.com. Free music. We take requests. And I did have one thing I wanted to hype, if that's okay.
No.
I have a friend of mine. His name is Brian Rodman. He does a book called Memoirs of an Angel. It is an amazing indie book. His Kickstarters are always successful because he always delivers. He's always guaranteed good stuff. He's getting ready to come up with a Kickstarter this month. I think this month, or if not, the very beginning of next month. Brian Rodman, Memoirs of an Angel. Check it out. I swear, you will enjoy it. And it's horror. It's kind of a religious. I wouldn't say horror. It's a religious book, but it's not. It's really, really good. Like, you'll enjoy it. I don't want to say anything more. I don't want to jade anybody.
All right, sounds good. So thank you so much, everyone. Once again, please like, subscribe, share out the video, go check out the Tall Tales Kickstarter, and I'll be talking to you all soon. I'll be back tomorrow with another great guest. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Damion.
Thank you.